Welcome to the High Road to Leadership. I am your host, Beverly Lewis, and I am thankful that you are here. The high road to leadership. I don't know what you picture or what your expectations are, but I'm going to tell you what mine are. I find that taking the high road in my mind means doing the right thing all the time. It means choosing what's best for everybody with the big picture in mind. And it's not always, in fact, I might as well just say it, it's never the easy road. And that's why we're here, because when you're going on a journey, you need tough shoes. You need to be equipped. And that is my goal, to bring you wisdom, tips, ideas, encouragement, inspiration, motivation to take the high road, to bring your best to whatever leadership role you're called to be in, whether it's small or large, but welcome. I'm glad you're here. And before we get started on this solo podcast today called A Better Brand of Leadership, I do want to tell you that I am going to start offering you a free gift. I had promised it for 2022, and here we are. I've written a book several years ago called Win From Within: The Heart of Success and Significance. And I just made an audio version of that book for the first time. It is not available on Amazon, but it's available free to you, my listeners. And the link is in the show notes, but it's also pretty easy to remember. My website is beverlyspeaks.com/free book to get your free audio download, and I hope you enjoy it. I'd love to hear from you about that. I'll tell you and remind you again at the end, or you can check the show notes. But let's go ahead and get started talking about a better brand of leadership. Here we are in 2022, and everything is different. Our world has fundamentally changed. I know we can all agree on that. And this is demanding an upgrade in how we function as leaders, how we think, how we navigate expectations, because the change is rapid and it is going to continue to be that way. This level of change fundamentally requires a different response. There's a new way of living. There's a new way of working. There's a new way of winning, and there's a new way of leading. Dr. Nadia Zexbenvayeva of the Reinvention Academy states that our challenge is not to survive until things stabilize. Our challenge is learning how to thrive in constant uncertainty. How it used to be is that you maybe had to reinvent every 30 or 40 years in business. Today, it's every 2 to 3 years. In the past, efficiency was the focus. Now, effectiveness has become the focus. In the past, perfection was expected and emphasized. Today, it's speed to market. It's the ability to get things out there. In the past, people typically had one career, and now multiple careers, often simultaneous main career along with an auxiliary career. People are doing business and doing careers in a whole new way. It used to be that you were expected to have a niche, a narrow specialization, but now cross-functional competence is key. In the past, there was a lot of competition. Today, the challenge is to understand and embrace co-opetition, which is really cooperation combined with the competition. Change was considered to be a bug in the past, and now change is a feature. So we all have to choose to upgrade, get all these new features, and what does that look like? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. When I say what does that look like, one thing that I know is that last year, people talked about languishing. That was a word, one of the buzzwords for 2021, that languishing was that place between, it wasn't depressed, and we've talked about this in past podcasts, but it wasn't depressed, but it definitely wasn't thriving. It was just kind of existing, surviving. We can't do that anymore. And here's my picture of that. I'm from Florida, live in Florida, and I've always been around boats and the Gulf of Mexico all of my life. And one thing I learned early on in boating, learned how to drive a boat and take one out on my own, probably, I don't know, when I was 14 or 15 years old. And one thing you knew is that if you got caught in a storm, you didn't just turn off the engine and float. It was very important to maintain engine power. And I certainly understand this. I've studied boating accidents of the bigger ships and some of the wrecks from a long time ago when boats didn't have engine power. If you don't have engine power in a hurricane, you're going to get swamped. You're going to get swamped. You're going to get overcome and you're going to go down. And you know what? It's the truth about leadership, too, that if you don't have engine power, if you don't stay powered up, if you don't find a way to keep your engine going and to keep leading, you're going to get swamped. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, because the good news is there are very particular things, intentional things that you can do to keep powered up, to keep moving forward, and to stay strong and lead well in 2022. Okay, let's talk about a few of those things. I mentioned the word intentionality already, and that is key. You have to make that decision. Everything is a choice, and making the decision to stay strong and move forward, learning, growing, developing new skills, receiving those upgrades that we talked about, that's really, really important. Another aspect besides intentionality is realizing that you can't just post a list of things you want to be intentional about. You have to set the tone. You have to take action. You have to have compassion, speak kindly. You have to be patient with people. You have to hold yourself to the highest standard of talk and action before you can even think about holding somebody else to that standard. Another thing that we hear a lot about, and it's been talked about for, a couple decades now, I think, is servant leadership, which I really think about that as selflessness. Oh, what a concept. Selflessness is the expression of servant leadership, and it means caring for others beyond what seems fair and meeting people right where they are. It might sound noble, but walking it out is tough. Meeting people where they are. Here's one thing to consider. I think that we all have been through difficulties. We've lost people. We've lost assets. I'm not going to go into the list of ways that people have been suffered trauma in the last several years. But what if everybody that you know was dealing with 50% more difficulty than you are even slightly aware of? You know what? That's probably the case. So yes, compassion is called for. And we're going to be talking about more of these things. But, one of the things that I think that people do is withhold words of affirmation and encouragement from other people, especially in the workplace. Because you think, okay, this is all business. This is not some fan club. But the reality is we all need encouragement, and even more so right now. Another thing that I tend to talk about a lot, I know, is integrity and character in leadership. But I'm going to go ahead and quote General Douglas MacArthur today, who said, "A true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions, and the compassion to listen to the needs of others. He does not set out to be a leader, but becomes one by the quality of his actions and the integrity of his intent." I love that. That was true when he said it. It's true today. And it goes back to, I know I say the same things a lot, but strategies change. Principles don't. And that is a principle from General Douglas MacArthur. When we talk about leadership, I'm going to host a guest coming up soon who talks a lot about trust. And stay tuned. His name is Dr. Toby Travis. I'll be interviewing him. But I read an article that he was quoted in extensively in Forbes magazine just last week. Really prompted me to call him and ask him to be a guest on the show, because he really believes that a core change, a core need of 2022 leaders in the marketplace is valuing employees above all others. The old days of saying that the customer is always right, he believes, and I do as well, that is now outdated. Your number one priority is your employees, because highly supported employees result in higher productivity. And then the client satisfaction is a natural overflow of your people that are happy. You can tell when you walk into a business or a doctor's office or any place like that, you can tell if the people that work there are happy. You can tell if they like working there. You don't even have to listen to very many conversations. There's usually an atmosphere that is either positive or negative. And as Dr. Travis says, that is really a result of having a philosophy of believing that employees are the lifeblood of the company, and we have to value them as such. We can't just craft policies and procedures and protocols. We have to protect people from overwork and burnout. Now, you might be saying, I'm not the boss. I don't have that influence. Well, vertical leadership is only one kind of leadership. Horizontal leadership is also very, very effective. Horizontal leadership is that which, when you don't necessarily have a plaque or a name badge on your desk that announces that you are a leader or a manager, but you have ownership. You take responsibility to do what you can, where you are, with what you have in your hand. And sometimes that's just taking on the opportunity to encourage a newer employer, a new coworker, and choosing to go out of your way to help them, to make yourself available, to say kind words to them, and not just to new coworkers, but to other coworkers, because every single one of us has the opportunity to change the atmosphere of where we are by our intentions, by our heart, by our actions. And that's horizontal leadership. And you know what? The reality is it's just as effective as vertical leadership. It can't outdo vertical leadership, because what flows from the top does have a huge impact on culture, but you can choose to make a difference regardless of your position or your title. So a few things that you can do from a horizontal leadership perspective is help people to feel respected, valued, and acknowledged. People need to be seen. This comes down to how we relate to one another as individuals. Having positive conversations, contributing positive things to and making suggestions instead of complaining, instead of letting the negativity set the tone. I find an interesting quote by Martha Bird, who, I love her title. She's a business anthropologist. I'd never heard that title before. And she wrote the book Remaking the Workspace to Boost Social Connection. She says a meaningful communication can start with 5 words. Tell me what you think. Simple. Those 5 words. Tell me what you think. It gives people the space to be heard. It gives people the space to understand that their opinion matters. It might not be a policy changer, yet it matters. We'll all have decisions to make in 2022 about how we can support mental health in the people around us, not only at work, but at work, the statistics and all of the assessments are saying that employee mental health is key, and eliminating fear at work. And you might think fear, well, they call it emotional safety. We know what physical safety is. They have active shooter drills and, unfortunately, things like that to ensure our physical safety. But what about our emotional safety? There's a manager of management and leadership development named Nick Congolosi, who states fear destroys trust and innovation. If you want to win in tomorrow's market, you need to mitigate fear today. Leaders should take care to not make work anxiety producing in an already overly anxious world. Now that, my friend, is a tall order. To make work not anxiety producing. Well, honestly, you might be laughing as I am internally, thinking if I could take the pressure off of myself, that would be a lot of removing anxiety producing stuff right there. And I know that high performers tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves. But maybe we need to rethink that as a leadership intention in 2022, because once again, who we are flows through us and goes to the people around us. So do we want to be an anxious person? Do we want to be driven? Do we want to be obsessed with performance and to the point that we're anxious? I don't think so. But for me, it's an intention to say, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to do, I talked with already this year with the naturopath that gave us some ideas on how to stress less. Yeah, you might want to go back and listen to Dr. Diana Wallace, because that leads us to the Gallup report on employee engagement that states that the big challenge to lead well in 2022 is to communicate more often, to communicate clearly, to develop a great team, and to make well-being the business of your business. This is a Gallup report. It goes on to say that well-being is based on 5 elements: career, social, financial, physical, and community. And that we have to work in tandem to create thriving lives. Gallup finds that higher levels of organizational well-being track with lower levels of employee burnout, stress, worry, anxiety, and depression, while boosting trust, innovation, and resilience. Even engaged employees, we've talked so much about engaged employees in the last 10 years, but even engaged employees who are not thriving in their well-being have a high risk of burnout. Well-being is a leadership issue in 2022. I'm going to leave you with that thought. Once again, I'm going to challenge you with the well-being exercise of reading personal growth. We all want professional development, but a lot of times we have to get it ourselves. Hopefully your workplace is offering that for you as well. But one way you can access personal development and professional development is to download the free book or to stream the free book, Win From Within, The Heart of Success and Significance, that I've recently recorded for you. You certainly can order the book on Amazon as well, but if you want the free download or the free audio version, simply go to beverlyspeaks.com/free book. It's in the show notes. I love to hear from y'all. I haven't really gotten in the habit of asking you to do things. And one thing that I've been told as a podcast host that I should ask for is for people to give me a positive review. People on your app, whether you're on Apple Tunes or Spotify or whatever you listen to, if you can subscribe, that really helps more people get access to the free resources that I love to offer to encourage you in your journey, because we are on the high road to leadership together, and it's an honor and it's a privilege. I'm glad you're here, and remember, the best is yet to come. I'll talk to you next episode.